What's up, YouTube? I missed you. I'm back with another video, or at least a video. I wanted to do a little update on how I create my druzies on my geodes, and I want to do a more thorough tutorial, and I want to show you exactly the step-by-step process I take along with all of the materials that I use. I wanted to thank you for all 40,000 subscribers. That is insane. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm Diana, otherwise known as GEODE COURSE. I post more regularly on my Instagram than I do on YouTube. Obviously, I haven't been here in so long, so if you do want to keep up with my artwork, my pigments, any releases that I do, any courses that I do, please follow me on there. And without further ado, I'm about to show you the project that I'm working on and bring you along with me on my journey to doing the druzy crystal portion on this geode. I do want to mention before I start, a lot of the materials are linked in the Amazon link in my bio. So if you have any questions in terms of materials, please read the bio first. A lot of the information is going to be there in terms of materials that I use. So check those links out. And if I forgot something, please comment below and I will add it to my bio immediately. The first thing that you're going to need is fireglass. I get mine from Celestial Fireglass. You can get yours from Barbecue Guys or here. It doesn't really matter. They're exactly the same thing. I get mine in two colors. I get it in the Diamond Starlight Reflective and the Diamond Starlight Clear. Both of them are 1/4 of an inch. This is important. Don't get the fireglass that is 1/2 of an inch because the pieces are too big. This is the panel that I'm using. This is an MDF board in 1/2 of an inch thick. I've sanded it, I've primed it, and now it's ready to go. Your first step is to select areas on your panel that you want to do your fireglass on. So I selected this area and this area right here. I'm going to show you right now exactly how I did this. We're gonna start with the Diamond Starlight Reflective. So what you're going to do is layer with the reflective and the clear, and you want these to be on bottom, so when you add the clear over the reflective, it gives a darker shadow and it makes it look like there's a lot of depth. So you're gonna add the reflective in areas where you want it to look deeper and darker. Sometimes I just use it as like the outline. Sometimes I have the reflective in the center where I want my quartz to pop out. But for today, I'm going to have them like here, in this area, and maybe some here. And I do this all on a dry panel. This has dried, it's no longer wet, which allows me to move my fireglass in whichever way I want and just adjust it to how I like. Once I approve of this, I just take my clear and I fill in this area. These will fall through once you pull the panels apart, which is okay. We'll go back and fix it towards the end. Now what I'm gonna do is cover the reflective areas just to bury them deeper so they're unnoticeable, but the color still shines through, which makes it look like there's a shadow under there. This is what we have so far, and now we can always adjust the design by smushing it and moving it, adding more, burying the reflective. When you are happy with your design, what I'm going to do is then find where I want my quartz to go. So sometimes I'll move the fireglass aside so I can set the quartz in a little bit more deep inside the druzy so it's not sitting on top and it looks nicer that way. So these are the areas where I want to put my quartz. The next thing that I'm going to do is line the outside with smaller glass because I don't like how the transition is going to be from 1/4 of an inch of fireglass down to the panel, so I want something much smaller. These vase fillers purchased from Michael's are much smaller, but unfortunately they come in like an amber color. However, because we're going to be doing resin, I'm going to be pouring the resin on the outline anyways, so this amber fiberglass will be covered. So I'm just using this for the size. So I'm going to just drizzle it on the outside. And I'm gonna pick out all of the bigger pieces and then brush them onto our druzy here. And you can see how these pieces are much smaller than the fiberglass. That is meant to give us a nice, easy transition onto the panel. You won't see the amber once I put resin on it because I will put gold resin over this glass anyways, so the difference in color does not matter. So I've played around with it some more. I'm happy with this shape. You can see I have some of the small Michael's decorative filler on the outside outlining the druzy. I have some areas that I dug into where I want to insert my quartz. That will happen, so no big deal, just pick it back up and throw it back on there. My next step is going to be securing it with resin. My shameless plug. I won a competition to be on Moss Epoxy's limited edition of their tabletop epoxy resin. Holy shit, this is like the most insane thing that I've ever won. But this painting is one of mine that we use for the background, and this photo of me is something that my mom took with our phone. She was holding it upside down because what else are moms for other than taking pictures of you with their phone upside down and backwards? But thank you, Moss Epoxy. Shout out to you for putting me on one of these babies. Anyway, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take equal parts and drizzle it over our glass. I'm starting out by drizzling a thin layer of resin over the fiberglass. I do this over pouring or drizzling thick amounts of resin because I do not want my fiberglass to be submerged under resin, because then it will lose its shimmer and the pieces will start losing their shape. I drizzle my resin in a crisscross manner, so I start drizzling it horizontally and then I return back and drizzle it vertically to ensure most pieces are covered. As long as each piece of glass is touching resin that is either touching another piece of glass or then connecting to the board, I'm okay. It's kind of tedious and it takes a while, but it is all worth it in the end, just to make sure that you can keep those glass pieces not submerged and to keep them all intact and connected to the board. What I'm doing now is creating a thicker resin border. So when I do my base layer of resin, I do not want that colored resin to seep under my crystals and then tint my glass pieces. So as thick as you can, try to create a border that surrounds your glass pieces to ensure that you don't have any color seeping through. Here I am adding resin to the borders of my glass again, just so later on in my next step, when I do resin for my base, no colors seep through. If you have any resin drips, all you have to do is wipe them down to thin them out. It's especially important to do it on the corners as well, because you don't want these bumps to show through on your next layer. You can now use this time to add more fiberglass to the corners where the glass pieces have fallen through. If they don't stay, that's okay. You still have plenty of opportunity to add them back in later on. It is now the next day, our resin has dried. What I'm doing now is I'm hot gluing the glass pieces that had fallen onto the sides of my panel. You could use new pieces, I just like to reuse what I have. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure to not put the glass pieces up high like this. I actually like to lower them here and make them flush with the bottom of the panel so I can add more glass on top, just like that, and it'll be much easier to match, because if I do glue the pieces on too high, it'll be hard for me to find pieces small enough to fit right in this area in order to still keep that glass flush. So now you're gonna fill in this top section right here. So what you're gonna do is just add more hot glue, grab a pile, and just drizzle them on. Go ahead and add your quartz points. These are quartz points that I sell on my website, diankapors.com. I usually like to add these in odd numbers, so 3, 6, 9. I want to show you now that after I've added my quartz, I like to put fiberglass on the base of the quartz just to tuck them in a little bit. Everything has hardened. This is the next day and I'm starting with my base layer. I'm starting with my sterling silver float to the top pigment and I'm covering all of the amber fiberglass pieces. I'm going to quickly skip over this part because this isn't a tutorial on how I pour my geodes. If you want to see a tutorial on how I do paintings very similar to this one, honestly, almost exactly the same, I do have a geode course that's listed in my bio and it shows a step-by-step process on how I make these. So this is the next day and I'm showing you exactly what I was trying to avoid, which is the blue that's seeping into my crystals. So in some places it's apparent that I did not do a thick enough border of resin and the blue had seeped under the glass and now is showing. If I had done a thick enough border, this wouldn't have happened. This is the same sterling silver float to the top pigment that I used for pouring in my resin. But this time, instead of mixing it in resin, I'm going to mix it in some gloss varnish in this reusable cup. This is the gloss varnish I was using. I'm using this to make a little mixture in order to paint over any of the blue spots of the blue resin that had seeped under my fire glass to hide it. I'm using these reusable sticks, and once resin dries on these, you can just bend the stick and crack off the resin and use it infinitely. It's much better than using wooden sticks because that sometimes can be a one-time use. So if you guys are interested in these reusable resin sticks, leave a comment in the comment section. I know that other artists are also selling these, which is so great. So in terms of changing my resin journey and shifting it to be more eco-friendly, I want to know if you guys are also interested in these. What I'm doing right now is I am taking a paintbrush and just going over the glass points that are towards the edge, and then I'm going to come back and cover any areas that are blue. You can see now that all of the blue areas that had seeped under my glass have disappeared. Don't mind all of the texture that's on my base. That is due to me just playing around with different resin and hardeners and such, so that will all disappear once I flood my painting. It is the next day, my silver has dried, so the objective for today is to add more glass to my piece to give it more volume, to outline my glitter lines, and then finish it with a flood coat. And within that flood coat, I'm going to drizzle over my glass to seal it in. If that confused you, that's okay. I'm just going to walk you through it and show you anyways. So what you're going to do now is fill in any areas that you feel have felt or look flat. So if you feel like the glass is lacking definition, add more to the top. I'm just adding a little bit of glass in areas that I want to thicken up. Now for the best part, and I'm serious when I say this, this is the most essential part of doing any glass druzy, is using glitter glass and some cubic zirconia if you want. How you're going to do this is you're going to drizzle yet again on top of your glass. That is to settle in any of the pieces that you had just put on there. And then you're going to take this glitter glass, which is like the most beautifully reflective part that brings everything to life. And I'm serious, if you want shimmer, add this to your druzy and it will give you shimmer. It will give you life, it will give you elegance, it will give you beauty and class. Trust me, use it. I sell it on my website on geodecourse.com. It's called glitter glass. Because you're drizzling the glitter glass over wet resin, you do not have to drizzle any more resin over it. In fact, don't do that because then that will be completely counterproductive. Now what I'm doing is I'm adding tiny drizzle cubic zirconia over my quartz points because the way the cubic zirconia reflects is in a rainbow shimmer and I love the way that looks. I used glitter glass on the left panel and I'm showing you a comparison to the right panel where I did not use glitter glass, and you can see the difference in the radiance and the reflectiveness of the glass. I'm now zooming in to show you the tiny drizzle cubic zirconia that I set in my quartz points. Now for the last step, your final flood coat. Make sure you don't have any glitter glass chilling on your canvas or else you will incorporate it into your flood coat. Use this time as an opportunity to drizzle your resin over the fiberglass that you hot glued to the side of your panel, just to make them extra secure, because those fiberglass pieces will pop off, especially during shipping, so you want to resin them down. Now that you've gotten this far, before I show you the final reveal, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram at GEODE COURSE. I post more regularly on there. And if you want to learn how to do resin art, I have a Basics of Resin course linked below. And if you want to do geode art, I have a geode course linked in the description. All of the materials are linked there, as well as all of your resources. And that's about it. Let's roll the tapes.